Frank Wood, housing officer for High Peak from 1983 to 2016.
Okay. Frank, how did you first come to sort of be involved with Gamesley?
I worked for Rowntrees in Hadfield, and I was ready for a change, so I decided I'd look around, and Trevor Makins was already working for High Peak as a rent collector, and he told me there was a vacancy coming up, so I applied and got the job. And the person who took me around was Roy Calvert, and I was with Roy for the first couple of weeks, and then I was left to my own devices, starting off as a rent collector. In them days, it was door-to-door collection, and I was amazed that you'd go in some houses and there'd be 6-7 full rents on the table. Could be £200 or £300, and you'd sit there and there'd be a cup of tea at the side of you, and which I'd drink while I was collecting the rent. I started off on Gamesley. It was over 10 days, and I spent something like 4.5 days on Gamesley, and the rest in other parts of the borough locally. And I started off on Wessington on the first day of the month, and worked my way on to Brailsford, and then on to Alport. Well, of course, when I got to Alport, I walked down the back of Alport, down Brailsford, and there was a chap called Fred Stone who I remember many years ago because I worked at Rowntrees with him, and he'd seen me coming down and do a couple more rents along the bungalows, and by the time I got to Fred's, the door would be open, the coffee pot would be on, and a slice of toast for me. Well, I collected another 3-4 rents at his house and had a chat about the old days at Rowntrees, and I took it from there and really enjoyed my days rent collecting.
You then moved on to become a housing officer.
Yeah, slowly but surely. It was brought in for me to do estate management, and the rent rounds were changed, and I spent 1 day a week doing estate management and rent arrears, which I did it mainly in Whitfield and Glossop areas, because with collecting on Gamesley, they give me different areas to do the rent arrears and estate management.
I expect over the years you must have had a sort of a whole host of sort of different stories and tales. Is there sort of one you can share with us of a sort of a special memory or special event from during your time working on the estate?
The ones that spring to mind aren't really to be said on here, I don't think.
But have you got one, any sort of particular memory from your time working with the council sort of on here? Anything, like Princess Di's visit or anything like that?
I wasn't too involved with Princess Di's visit, but I do remember being in the Games office at the time, and I actually did see her on the car park, and with a famous where she dropped her eyes and looked at you, and I felt sure she looked at me actually. But yeah, that was a good day for Gamesley. I remember she went in a house on Grindleford just after. Well, it was to celebrate the enveloping of the houses and reopening of it officially, and it was a great day. People were out with banners and waving, and it was smashing, and the old estate was pristine. One thing about Gamesley, what I do remember is that when I first started, all the Manchester people, I mean, they'd been here already by 10, 12, 15 years, but they were all very respectful, and everybody was so nice. And in my time at Gamesley, I think it lost its way a little bit with how people were with you. people stopped being as respectful as time went on, and it got to a point where some people could be quite abusive to you. And of course, I'm not allowed to say anything back as much as I'd like to, or otherwise it'd be me that'd be in trouble. But it did go down. The offspring of the people there originally it did go downhill a little bit. But having said that, smashing estate, I've enjoyed my time up there. I went to school with lads and girls from Gamesley when I went to Glossop School, and when I came up here I knew a lot of the people already. A few of us ran a little team called Whitfield Athletic many years ago when we were mid-teens, and we used to play Gamesley, and I got to know a lot of the lads then, and of course I got to know quite a lot of them when we used to go in the local pubs. So I knew a lot of families, and I think that put me in good stead, and that's why I liked it up here, and the people, and in fact I'm still friends with a lot of them to this day.
For all the sort of the miles that you covered of the estate during your time, so particularly rent collecting, but then as one of the housing officers, is there a particular place on the estate that has sort of special memories for you, or a particular place that you like to go on the estate?
I never liked Taddington and Bleaklow, which were too condensed, and it was quite a good thing when Taddington and Bleaklow were demolished and then the Robin Wood Lodge was built. I thought that was a great thing that happened. I thought that area was probably the worst part of the estate, really, and the most neglected as well. But nowhere in particular quite like Gamesley, full stop. I mean, in certain areas I didn't particularly like, but there was nowhere I liked in particular. But there were certain people who I always got on well with, and and I still do to this day.
In terms of sort of, your job changed over the years, but did you notice sort of much of a change in the estate as a whole from sort of when you first started to sort of how it is now, or when you retired?
When I was the housing officer free, which I was for the last 7 years before I called it a day, I think I picked up the old methods, and I like to talk to people when there wasn't a problem to see if they had a problem, and if I had a visit to do on a certain part of the estate, I used to go there a different way to the route I came back, so I'd see different people, and I'd spend a bit of time chatting and try and befriend a few people that I wouldn't otherwise, and I think a responsive housing officer is better than the ones that just sit in the office and wait for the phone ringing. I like to be seen and to know what were going on, because when you talk to people they tell you things, and I got to know a lot of things that maybe other officers would never get to know.
And as a sort of a Glossop local, sort of, when folk first moved up, there was always a little bit of rivalry in a sense between folk that had come up to the estate from Manchester, and a lot of folks sort of saw themselves still as sort of Mancunians rather than Glossopians. Do you think there's still any of that about these days, or is it all?
No, I think it's all, no, because it's two, 3 generations down the line, I think, and also there's the way the lettings policy is. There's people from Newmills, Buxton, you name it, on the estate now, and I think it's all integrated in, and time changes things.